All right, let's jump into a fascinating topic today. We're going to be tackling body recomposition. You want to know if it's really possible to build muscle while you're also shedding fat
Yeah.
at the same time. And you've actually sent in some awesome excerpts from the Ultimate Guide to Body Recomposition
Nice.
to help us break this down.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
It really is. It's something that has puzzled people for a long time. And honestly, some of that like old school fitness advice out there hasn't really helped
Oh, totally.
clear things up.
Oh.
But your sources really put the emphasis on the science behind body recomposition,
Okay.
which is what we're going to be unpacking today.
Awesome. So let's just get right to it. Okay, first things first. Is it really possible to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time?
Yeah. I mean, the book busts that myth right away.
Yeah.
It dives deep into the research, and one study in particular really drives the point home. The OBS study, they looked at highly trained individuals, people you'd think would have a really tough time recomping. And all three groups, even with different workout routines, they all achieved body recomposition.
That's amazing. So, like, even people who are already fit
Yeah.
can still do it. I remember reading about that study, too. And I think the thing that really stood out to me was there was one person, right, one participant, who gained over 8 pounds of muscle while losing over 4 pounds of fat in just 9 weeks.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind. Like, if they can do it, then wow, what's possible for everybody else?
It is. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
And it highlights why understanding your metabolism is just so key
Right.
for actually setting up your diet for body recomposition.
So let's talk about that for a second. We hear a lot about calories in versus calories out,
Right.
but the book kind of suggests that it's a little more nuanced than that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's not just as simple as that. The book really emphasizes that macro breakdown and nutrient timing, they matter a great deal. It's not just about hitting a specific calorie target. It's also about, what those calories are made of and when you're actually consuming them.
Oh, that makes sense. And there's this concept in the book. It's called the activity multiplier, right?
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah,
Because it sounds kind of intimidating.
So think of it this way. A construction worker is going to need more calories than someone who sits at a desk all day,
Right.
even if they weigh the same.
Sure.
So the activity multiplier basically helps you personalize your calorie needs based on how active you are in your daily life.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. I was getting a little lost in the weeds with all the numbers there.
Yeah.
So then, where do carbs fit into all this?
Yeah.
Because the book talks about these linear and nonlinear carb intake approaches. And I gotta be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on what that actually means.
Yeah. So linear carb intake basically means you're keeping your carb intake pretty much the same every day. And that can be great for simplicity, especially if you're in a calorie surplus. But the book also introduces what it calls logical carb cycling, where you actually adjust your carb intake based on your workout days.
Okay, so that's where the nonlinear part comes in.
Exactly.
Got it. So I'm hearing like more carbs on the days you work out,
Right.
fewer carbs on the days you rest.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about strategically, fueling your workouts for the best energy and recovery. And the book suggests that this might actually be more beneficial for people who are either, trying to maintain their weight or lose fat.
That's really interesting because it's like a lot of times you see, people just cutting out carbs completely. Like that seems to be the go-to.
Yeah.
But this is much more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Now, there's also this thing in the book called the skinny fat dilemma, which I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people listening can probably relate to.
Yeah.
So can you explain what that is and why it even matters?
Sure. Skinny fat is essentially when someone has low muscle mass,
Okay.
but a high body fat percentage. So they might look relatively thin,
Okay.
in clothes, but they actually have an increased risk of health issues like, metabolic syndrome.
Oh, wow. That's a bit of a wake-up call,
Yeah.
because it's not just about how you look. It's about, being healthy on the inside, too.
Yeah.
So what does the book recommend for those people who kind of fall into that skinny fat category?
So it suggests a phased approach.
Okay.
Basically, prioritize losing fat first
Yeah.
through a moderate calorie deficit. And then once you've reached a healthier body fat percentage, then you can shift your focus to building muscle,
Oh, that's really interesting. So it's like get to a good
a baseline.
baseline,
Yeah.
and then start building. Okay, that's a really clear roadmap for
Yeah.
people. Okay, so let's get into like the building blocks of this, right? Macros. Protein, carbs, and fats. The book really emphasizes protein, especially for building muscle, even when you're in a calorie deficit.
Absolutely. It is crucial for muscle repair and growth.
So important.
Yeah, and the book actually recommends a range of 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass,
Okay.
with leaner individuals actually needing more protein.
Oh, that's interesting. So the leaner you are,
Yeah,
the more protein?
exactly.
Okay.
It's about tailoring that intake to your individual body composition.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. What about carbs?
Yeah.
Because, carbs, I feel like they get demonized a lot, but they're important for energy too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the book actually emphasizes
Right.
choosing the right types of carbs
Okay.
and understanding something called the glycemic index, or GI.
Right, I've heard of that. I've heard of the glycemic index, but I'm not always sure, how it relates to all this.
Yeah, so the glycemic index basically measures how quickly a food raises your blood sugar level.
Oh, okay.
And so choosing low GI carbs before a workout can give you sustained energy. But high GI carbs might actually lead to, energy crashes and poor performance.
Got it.
The book even shares a story about one guy, Jeff, who had a terrible workout after he ate just chicken and rice beforehand
Wow.
because of blood sugar fluctuations.
So even if it's quote unquote healthy food,
Exactly.
it's not necessarily the right.
It's about timing.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And then of course there's fat,
Yeah.
which I feel like always gets a bad rap.
Oh, yeah. It's always demonized.
But essential, right?
Well, it's essential for hormone production and your overall health. And the book recommends about 20 to 35% of your calories coming from fat.
Okay.
Adjustments can be made based on body fat and activity level.
Got it. So finding that sweet spot. Okay, so now let's talk about fueling our workouts, right? Nutrient timing. I feel like a lot of people, they just focus on that post-workout shake.
Right.
But the book goes way deeper than that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It covers pre-workout, intra-workout, and post-workout nutrition in detail, really taking a strategic approach throughout the whole day.
So what are some of the things that we should be thinking about when it comes to pre-workout?
So pre-workout, the book recommends those low GI carbs for sustained energy
Okay.
and emphasizes hydration, which, we saw what happened to Jeff.
Right. Yeah, poor Jeff.
Yeah, when he didn't have enough.
All right, and then what about during the workout? Do we really need to be, sipping on something while we're training?
So the book does delve into intra-workout nutrition
Okay.
and explains that it can actually help to spare muscle glycogen and potentially even improve performance.
Got it.
But it also debunks the myth that protein is essential during a workout if you've had a proper pre-workout meal.
Okay, so not absolutely necessary,
Yeah.
but it can be helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
What about after the workout? Because that's the crucial window, right?
So post-workout nutrition, it's important for recovery.
Okay.
But it's not as time sensitive as some people believe.
Yeah.
You don't need to slam a protein shake the second you're done lifting weights.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So we've talked about fueling our workouts,
Right.
but what about the workouts themselves? Where does weight training fit into all this?
So the book is very clear. Weight training is the driving force behind body recomposition. And it uses the analogy of a car. Training is the engine, nutrition is the fuel.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can have all the best fuel in the world, but if you don't have a powerful engine, you're not going anywhere.
Exactly.
I think I fall into that category sometimes where I'm so focused on the nutrition,
Yeah.
I forget about the actual training part.
Right, it's a common mistake.
Yeah.
But the book does provide a ton of valuable information on how to actually structure your training
Okay.
for optimal results.
Like what?
So it talks about progressive overload, which we touched on a little bit earlier. But it basically means you're continuously challenging your muscles by gradually increasing the weight or the reps or sets.
Oh, okay. So it's not just going to the gym and doing the same thing
Right.
every time. You have to kind of keep pushing yourself.
Exactly. You got to keep pushing yourself.
Got it. Okay.
And the book suggests aiming for around 10 to 20 sets per body part per week,
Okay.
which can be a good starting point for most people.
Yeah.
So that gives us a good target, like a range to shoot for.
Yeah.
But I've also heard, not all sets are created equal, right?
That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the book actually dives into the difference between compound exercises
All right.
and isolation exercises.
So compound exercises would be like squats,
Squats, deadlifts, bench press.
those kind of things.
Exactly.
And then isolation would be like bicep curls, triceps extensions.
Exactly,
Th-
things like that.
yeah.
And then it suggests prioritizing those compound exercises, especially if you're newer to training or if you're just short on time,
Right.
because they're just more efficient for building that overall muscle mass.
It's like get the most bang for your buck.
Okay, got it. Now, I know there are tons of ways to structure your training week, like
Right.
all these different splits and training frequencies. Does the book have like a recommendation for that?
So, one of the things I appreciate about the book is it doesn't pretend to have all the answers
I like that.
when it comes to training because there are so many approaches.
Right.
And what works best really depends on the individual, their experience, their recovery, and their personal preferences.
So it's finding what works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so we talked about weight training, but
Right.
then there's cardio.
Right.
Right.
And I'm guessing we shouldn't just be like ditching cardio altogether.
No, it's a good question.
Yeah.
And the book addresses it head on.
Okay.
And it says that cardio should really be seen as a tool, not necessarily a requirement.
Okay.
So if your primary goal is muscle gain, you might not need to do a ton of cardio. So if I'm loving lifting weights and I'm really focused on getting stronger and building muscle, I can maybe like take it easy on the cardio.
You can definitely prioritize the weight training.
Okay.
Now, if fat loss is a primary goal, then incorporating some cardio can be helpful
Right.
for creating that calorie deficit that we talked about.
Makes sense. So it's about aligning your training with your goals.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, so it sounds like cardio can be helpful, but not always essential, especially if you're really focused on building muscle. And the book even dives into all the different types of cardio, right? Comparing SS and HIS, which can be a little overwhelming.
Yeah, there are a lot of options out there,
Yeah.
but the book does a good job of breaking them down, explaining the pros and cons of each, even that whole afterburn effect thing, or EPOC that you hear about with HIS.
Yeah. EOC, I've always wondered about that. So the idea is that you keep burning calories at a higher rate even after your workout's over, right?
Right, that's the idea. It definitely sounds good, but the book actually cites some research suggesting that EPAC might not be as significant as people think, especially when it comes to fat loss.
So HIIT isn't like the magic bullet it's made out to be?
Exactly. It's still a great workout, but it's important to have, realistic expectations. But the book has all good recommendations for how to work different types of cardio into your routine,
Yeah.
depending on what you're trying to accomplish
Yeah.
and what you like to do.
Makes sense. Okay, so now I know we can't talk about fitness without at least mentioning supplements.
Of course.
Right. Because, I mean, they're everywhere.
They are.
And it can be really hard to know which ones, are legit and which ones are just hype.
Totally. It's like a minefield out there.
Yeah, exactly. But the book does a good job, right, of taking an evidence-based approach.
Absolutely.
It says supplements shouldn't replace good training and nutrition.
Yeah, they're just that.
Yeah.
Supplements to kind of enhance what you're already doing,
Okay.
not to replace it completely.
Got it. But are there any supplements that actually have good research behind them that might be worth considering for body recomposition?
There are definitely a few that stand out.
Oh, okay. I'm all ears.
So protein powder, classic, for a reason.
Of course.
Because it's just an easy way to get more protein in, especially if you struggle to hit your targets just through food.
Totally. And especially with those higher protein recommendations for leaner people that we talked about.
Right, exactly.
Whoa.
Creatine. Also, tons of research behind it shown to really improve strength, power, muscle growth.
Yeah, I've heard good things about creatine. And the book also mentions that you don't need to do those crazy loading phases anymore, right?
No more loading.
Just a consistent dose.
Exactly. Keep it simple.
Easy. I like it. What about caffeine? Because I feel like everyone I know uses caffeine.
Right. The pre-workout boost.
Yeah, as their pre-workout.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any science to that?
Absolutely, yeah. Caffeine is, it's a stimulant, so it can definitely enhance your performance and might even help with fat loss.
So it's not just in our heads, that like pre-workout buzz.
No, it's a real thing.
But there are probably downsides too, right?
There are. The book says to be careful not to overdo it.
Okay.
Too much caffeine can lead to anxiety, problems sleeping, even tolerance buildup, where you need more and more to get the same effect.
Right. Moderation is key. I feel like that's a recurring theme
Yes.
with a lot of this stuff. Now, the book also talks about some supplements that are more for like overall health, like multivitamins. Are those really necessary if you're eating a healthy diet?
It's a good question. And it's kind of a gray area. The book acknowledges there's debate around this.
Okay.
But it does mention research suggesting that athletes, and especially people in a calorie deficit, might not always get all the micronutrients they need just from food.
Oh, interesting.
So a multivitamin could be kind of like an insurance policy,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
just in case.
Okay. Now I'm curious about green tea extract, or EGCG. I've heard that's good for fat burning.
Yeah, so EGCG is a powerful antioxidant. And the book mentions a study where it was combined with just a little bit of caffeine, and it actually led to greater weight loss
Wow.
and abdominal fat reduction.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty impressive. So it might be something worth looking into.
Yeah, definitely something to consider.
Right.
And we've covered a lot of the main supplements, but the book goes even deeper, talking about ashwagandha, L-citrulline, and yohimbine.
Those are definitely not as well known.
Yeah, they're a little more specialized.
Can you give us, like, the quick rundown on what those are all about?
Sure. So ashwagandha is something called an adaptogen,
Okay.
which means it helps your body deal with stress.
Oh, okay.
And there's research that shows it might reduce anxiety and could even help with strength gains.
Wow.
And then L-citrulline is popular with weightlifters because it's thought to enhance blood flow
Okay.
and give you those awesome muscle pumps during your workout.
I've seen that, yeah. In, like, pre-workout formulas and stuff.
Exactly.
What about yohimbine?
So yohimbine, that one's interesting. It's sometimes used for targeting, like, stubborn fat,
Oh.
like the stomach, thighs, those areas.
Okay, interesting. So it sounds like there's a whole world out there
Oh, yeah.
beyond just the basic supplements that we hear about.
There are so many options.
But the book does a good job of giving us, the research.
Absolutely. Yeah, it actually breaks supplements down into different tiers
Oh, cool.
based on their effectiveness,
Mhm.
the research behind them, and even the cost.
Okay,
So it's really about giving you the information
right.
to make good choices about what's right for you.
I like that. It takes out some of the guesswork.
Exactly.
Okay, well, this has been a lot of information. We've covered so much: the science of body recomposition, practical strategies for nutrition, training, supplements.
Yeah, we've been through a lot.
I feel like we really unpacked this whole thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully you feel that way too. And I know you've said this before, but the book that you provided is a really great resource if people want to dig in even more
It really is.
to these concepts.
Tons of great information.
And as we wrap up, I just want to touch on something that I thought was really important. And that's this idea that body recomposition is a journey.
Yes.
It's not a destination. It's about progress,
not perfection.
not perfection. Yeah.
The book really emphasizes patience, consistency, being willing to adapt,
Yeah.
as you go. It's not about quick fixes. It's about making those lasting changes that will support your health and fitness long term.
I love that. It's about enjoying the process and celebrating all those wins, no matter how small.
For sure.
So as we're coming to the end here, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from this whole conversation?
I think the main takeaway is that body recomposition is possible,
Okay.
but it takes a holistic approach.
Okay.
You got to have the right training, the nutrition, the sleep. Even managing stress plays a role. And it's about learning about all this stuff, making good choices, and then being consistent.
That's a great message. It's not about shortcuts or trying to be perfect.
Exactly.
It's about making sustainable changes for a healthier you.
Exactly.
Love it.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone. There are lots of resources out there, like this book we talked about. And if you need help, don't be afraid to reach out to a qualified professional.
That's great advice. This deep dive has been awesome. I'm so glad we got to explore body recomposition together. We busted some myths, looked at the science, and hopefully gave you the knowledge to make some changes and reach your goals.
Absolutely.
Keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep moving forward on your fitness journey. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time. And the book even dives into those different types of cardio you were talking about, like LEIS versus HIIT, which I gotta be honest, sometimes it feels like too many choices.
Yeah, there are a lot of options out there.
Yeah.
But the book does a good job of breaking it all down. Like,
Yeah.
what are the pros and cons of each? And it even talks about that afterburn thing,
Huh.
that EPT.
Oh, right. With HIIT, yeah,
sure.
I've always wondered about that. Is it true that you burn more calories even after you finish working out?
Well, that's the claim, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds awesome.
Right.
But the book actually references some research suggesting that EPT might not be as, impactful as
Okay.
people think, especially for fat loss.
So HIIT isn't necessarily like the magic solution?
Yeah, not the magic bullet.
Okay.
But the book does have good recommendations for incorporating different types of cardio based on what your goals are, what you enjoy.
Yeah, finding what works for you.
Exactly.
Now, I know we can't talk about fitness without talking about supplements.
Of course.
I mean, they're everywhere.
They are.
And it can be really tough to know
Right.
which ones are legit and which ones are just hype.
Exactly. They can feel overwhelming.
It really can. But this book takes a really good, like, evidence-based approach.
Absolutely. The book is all about the science.
Yeah, it emphasizes that supplements should never replace, good training and nutrition.
Yeah, they're just that. Supplements, they're there to enhance what you're already doing.
Right, not a quick fix.
Exactly.
Are there any supplements that have, like, good research behind them
Yeah,
that would be worth considering for body recomposition?
absolutely. There are a few that stand out.
Oh, okay. I'm all ears.
So, protein powder, a classic.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
Of course.
It's because it's just a convenient way to get more protein, especially if you have trouble getting enough just from food.
Right. Especially with those higher recommendations we talked about for leaner individuals.
Exactly.
What else is on the list?
Creatine. That one has a ton of research behind it.
Okay.
And it's been shown to improve strength, power, muscle growth.
And no more crazy loading phases.
No, you don't have to do that anymore.
Thank goodness. I've always hated those.
Yeah, just a consistent dose, 5 grams a day.
Easy. I like it. Okay, I got to ask about caffeine.
Uh-huh.
I feel like everyone I know uses it as a pre-workout.
Oh, yeah, it's super popular.
Is there actually science behind that?
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
Caffeine's a stimulant, so it can definitely boost your performance.
Okay.
And it might even help with fat loss.
So it's not just a placebo effect.
No, it's the real deal.
What about downsides?
Yeah, the book does mention that you want to be careful not to overdo it
Right.
because too much caffeine can cause anxiety, problems sleeping. You can even build up a tolerance.
Right.
So you need more and more to get that same effect.
Moderation is key.
Yeah, it really is. With pretty much everything.
I feel like that's the theme of this whole conversation.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The book also talks about supplements that are more for, like, overall health. Like multivitamins. Are those really necessary if you're eating a healthy diet?
You know, that's a good question. It's a bit of a gray area.
Yeah.
And the book says there's definitely debate on this, but it does mention research that suggests athletes, especially those in a calorie deficit, they might not always get everything they need from food alone.
Interesting.
So a multivitamin could be kind of like an insurance policy,
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
just to cover your bases.
Just in case.
Yeah.
What about green tea extract,
Yeah.
EGCG?
Yes. So EGCG is a powerful antioxidant found in green tea.
Okay.
And the book actually mentions a study where they combined it with just a little bit of caffeine.
Okay.
And it led to some pretty significant weight loss and even abdominal fat reduction.
Wow. Okay. That's worth looking into.
Definitely something to consider.
We've talked about a lot of supplements, but I know there are even more, like, specialized ones out there
Oh, there's so many.
that we haven't even touched on.
Yeah, the book goes into a few others like ashwagandha,
Yeah.
L-citrulline, yohimbine.
Those are definitely not as well known.
No, they're a little more niche.
Can you give us the quick rundown on those?
Sure. So ashwagandha, it's something called an adaptogen, which means it helps your body deal with stress.
Oh, okay.
And there's research that shows it might help with anxiety and even strength gains.
Huh, cool.
And then L-citrulline, that one's popular with weightlifters
Okay.
because it can enhance blood flow and give you those great muscle pumps.
I've heard of that, yeah. I think I've seen it in pre-workout formulas.
Right, exactly. And then yohimbine, that one's kind of interesting. It's sometimes used for like targeting those stubborn fat areas.
Oh, okay. Like belly fat.
Yeah, like stomach, thighs,
Interesting.
those tough spots.
So there really is like a whole world of supplements out there.
The whole world, yeah.
But the book does a good job of, giving us the evidence.
Yeah. And it actually categorizes the supplements into different tiers
Oh.
based on how
Wow.
effective they are, the research behind them, even the cost.
I love that.
Yeah, it's about making sure you have the information you need
Right.
to choose what's right for you.
It takes the guesswork out of it.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground today. This has been a really informative deep dive. We talked about the science behind body recomposition, practical strategies for nutrition, training, even supplements. Hopefully we unpacked all of this in a way that makes sense.
I hope so too.
And hopefully, you feel equipped to start putting some of this into action.
Absolutely. And remember, that book is a fantastic resource if you want to learn more.
Oh, it's awesome. And as we wrap up, I want to come back to something you mentioned earlier, this idea that body recomposition, it's a journey, not a destination.
It really is.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah, exactly.
And the book really emphasizes being patient being consistent
Absolutely.
and adapting as you go along.
It's not about quick fixes. It's about long-term sustainable change.
Love that. It's about enjoying the process
Yeah,
and celebrating those small wins along the way.
absolutely.
So, as we come to the end here, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from all of this?
I'd say the most important takeaway is that body recomposition is possible.
Okay.
You can do it,
Yeah.
but it does require a holistic approach.
Yeah.
You need to have the right training, the nutrition, the sleep.
Right.
Even stress management plays a role.
Wow.
But it's about taking all of this information, making those informed choices, and being consistent.
That's great. It's not about trying to be perfect or find those shortcuts.
Yeah, no magic bullets.
It's about making those real, sustainable changes
Exactly.
for a healthier you.
And remember, you don't have to go through this alone.
Yeah.
There are so many resources out there, like the book we've talked about.
Yeah.
And if you need extra guidance, definitely reach out to a qualified professional.
That's such great advice. Well, this deep dive has been incredible. I'm so glad we got to explore body recomposition together. We busted myths, looked at the science, and hopefully you're walking away feeling like you've got the tools and the knowledge you need to make some changes and achieve your goals.
That's what we were hoping for.
Awesome. Keep learning, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep moving forward on your fitness journey.
You got this?
Thanks for joining.